Let's discuss the extraordinary vessels, chi reservoirs. The extraordinary vessels are called extraordinary because they do not belong to the main channel system. They do not have exterior-interior relationship, and they add something to the channel system. With the exception of the governing and directing vessels, the extraordinary vessels do not have their own points as the main channel do, but they flow through points of various main channels. Therefore, each extraordinary vessels influences more than one main channel. As we will see shortly, this is an important characteristics and accounts for their clinical use. The 8 extraordinary vessels and their opening points are direct vessels, lung 7, governing vessels, SI3, penetrating vessels, spleen 4, girdle vessels, GB41, yin linking vessels, P6, yang linking vessels, TB5, yin stepping vessels, kidney 6, yang stepping vessels, bladder 62. As the governing and directing vessels have their own points, they have the dual quality of a main channel and an extraordinary vessels. For this reason, the main channel are sometimes counted as 14 rather than 12. As we shall see shortly, this accounts for an important difference in the use of the points of these two vessels compared to the other 6. The extraordinary vessels as reservoirs of qi. The extraordinary vessels act as reservoirs of energy in relation to the main channel, which are compared to rivers. This idea comes from the classic of difficulties in chapter 27 and 28. In chapter 27 of the classic of difficulties, it says the sage built ditches and reservoirs, and they kept the waterways open in order to be prepared for above normal situation, like floods. When there are heavy rains, ditches and reservoirs are full to the brim. In the human body, when the channels are overfilled, they cannot absorb the excess, and this overflow from the main channel is absorbed by the extraordinary vessels. The classic of difficulties repeats and expands on the previous chapter. The sage build ditches and reservoirs. When these are full, they overflow into the deep lakes. In the human body, when the channels are overfilled, they overflow into the 8 extraordinary vessels where they are no longer part of the general circulation. The study of the 8 extraordinary vessels by Li Shixuan says, in a similar way, when the qi of the channels overflow, it flows into the extraordinary vessels where it is turned into irrigation, warming the organs internally and irrigating the space between skin and muscles externally. The influence of the extraordinary vessels on the space between skin and muscles implies their important role in protection from pathogenic factors. The extraordinary vessels are like reservoirs, absorbing the overflow of excess qi from the main channels, which are like canals. As we shall see shortly, the yin and yang stepping vessels are the first in line to perform this function. This is for the reason why their pathology consists primarily in excess of yin or yang. As the extraordinary vessels have many intersections with the main channel, they integrate and regulate the channel system and absorb overflows from the main channels. The yin and yang linking vessels and the yin and yang stepping vessels are particularly good example of this. To take the yang stepping vessels as an example, these vessels connects with many channels. It starts from the bladder channel and connects with the gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, stomach, triple burner, and bladder channels, and the directing and yin stepping vessels. This means that the extraordinary vessels can both absorb energy from the main channels and transfer energy to them when needed. This happens in cases of shock, for example. So we have here illustration, the reservoirs of qi absorbing excess qi from the main channels. Qi and reservoirs warm the organ internally and irrigates the space between skin and muscles externally. The extraordinary vessels can both absorb qi from main vessels and transfer qi to them. Okay.